Hello, this is Roland. Today I want to talk about comfort. Comfort is, in terms of spiritual growth, it's a real problem. And I know it's hard to understand, but please bear me out. You see, we ought to really be only getting comfort from one source, from our Creator. He's the one that made us. He's the one that knows us best, and He's the one to whom we owe our loyalty, our allegiance, and we should look to Him for everything. Okay, it says that in the Bible over and over again, through the Old Testament and in the New Testament. The beautiful Psalms talk about how God is. Psalms of David, for example, how God was his comfort, his rock, a mighty fortress. Okay, there's just so many beautiful verses. Don't need to go into them all because you're familiar with them, I'm sure. But I was listening today to a program coming from a town nearby, a Christian radio station, and it was about a homeless mission. Okay, well. They were talking about, well, how can you help another person? And the one person said, well, like a hug or a pat on the back. You're doing okay, Well, I thought about that, but you know what? You're better off without the hug and without the pat on the back. See, there's an old expression, an old saying that I heard someone say one time, and it's very, very true. It's what they call tough love. It's a hard teaching. It's a hard teaching. But it says who never lets us suffer, never lets us recover. Who never lets us suffer, never lets us recover. So you see, for every mistake, every error, every wrongdoing, there's always somebody rushing in to the person's aid, rushing to remove the symptoms, rushing to remove the consequences, rushing to remove the pain. See, making everything okay so there's no shame, there's no pain, there are no symptoms, no consequences. See, liberals are really good at that. See, at comforting and rewarding and caring for and nurturing what's the worst. Okay? And so those people never recover. See, if you reach out into the world, now listen, see, maybe you can remember when you were a little child and you did something wrong. Okay? Now, if you were lucky, they didn't lower the boom on you too hard. They didn't force you to do anything. They didn't yell and scream at you or punish you or anything. But you did something wrong and you knew it. And your parent maybe saw that you did something wrong. And then you went off. You went to your room or you went outside and stood outside. You felt really bad. Okay, you felt bad because you knew you did something wrong. And it was painful. Okay? But then later, you came in, I'm sorry, Mom. Okay. See? Hope you learn your lesson. But there's that little period of suffering and soul searching, even for a little child. See? And it's a moment of pain, a moment of regret, of unhappiness. See? Or a moment of thoughtful consideration, after which you're better. But if somebody rushes in right away with comfort, it's not your fault. Don't pay attention to your mom, or don't pay attention to your dad, or they don't know anything. Just the heck with them. Or somebody rushes to your aid and covers up. Someone rushes in to cover up what you did. Make it go away. See? Then maybe they lie for you and say it didn't happen. See? You never learn that way. It's a kind of spoiling. It really is. But the problem is that when you lean to now listen to this saying from Christ. He said, the love of the world makes for enmity with God. The love of the world makes for enmity with God. The love of the world. Okay? It's the love of the world that made you wrong in the first place, probably. See, or the cruelty of the world. But then the love of the world makes you wrong, and then it defends what you are and comforts what you are, and removes the symptoms and the consequences of what you are. It makes it all okay. See? That's why false meditations are also deadly. False meditations where there's no, it's not a true reaching for God. It's a meditation to feel better, to have more peace, to be relaxed, to visualize wonderful things. See, it's a kind of comfort apart from God. What you need is a comfort of God. It says in the Bible, I think it's Paul that calls him the God of all comfort. The God of all comfort. Well, God will comfort you, but first, you have to be sorry. And first you have to see you're wrong. See, if he comforted you right away, you wouldn't see you're wrong, your error. It's like a math problem. Let's say you have a math problem to do. Well, there's the problem, and you can't solve it. So you try and try, and somehow you can't solve it. If somebody rushes in and does it for you, or if the teacher says, well, that's okay, I'll just give you an A and don't worry about that problem, and you don't grow. And you know kids don't like that. They don't like it. They want to earn. They want to learn, and they want to earn, okay, what they get. They don't want it handed to them. It's embarrassing. Okay. So, you know how it is. People rush to support the wrong. Well, so now you understand that comfort from the world. You're better off without the world's comfort. See, I'm not saying, see, there's a difference between being mean and being stern. There's a difference between tough love and cruelty. I had a teacher one time on her. I've mentioned her many times. She was an English teacher, and she was very stern. She was no nonsense. She wasn't comforting at all. She was a good teacher. Okay? She covered the material well. She knew her subject. But she said in the very beginning, she says, Ron, you have a lot of ability. I know you do. And I expect you to perform in this class. And you know what? It was the beginning for me. The beginning of performing. Then I went to a high school that was, it wasn't really that strict, but compared to the other ones it was. Okay, we had to wear uniforms. We had to stand whenever someone came into the room. And there were no nonsense. Okay, there was no nonsense. It was a parochial school. I wasn't a Catholic. Okay, and my parents weren't Catholics, but they accepted non-Catholics at this school, so I went. They sent me there because they wanted me to shape up a little bit. I was getting a little bit not so good when I was like 13, 14 years old, so they went there. And you know what? It did shape me up. The sternness, the discipline, there you go, the discipline was good for me, and I liked it. And I began to perform, and then I excelled, and then there's the rest of the story. But comfort is not good, okay? So now you understand. So you're better off without the world's comfort because, especially now when it comes to the matters of the soul, spiritual matters. See, the religion is a relationship between the soul and its maker. It's a very personal and private thing, and nobody should be messing in on it. The trouble with most religions, most churches, they're too comforting. See, they're kind of nice and they're accepting and they're warm and you know, it's just the worst thing. You're better off without the comfort. You're better off just to suffer the consequences for what you did, because suffering sobers you up. See? Look, suffering will result in some people realizing their error and then turning away from it. But not all. For some, the suffering doesn't do that. They just resent the suffering. They resent it. They hate it. They're filled with resentment and rage and a feeling like they're being hard done by, and they curse society. See, they curse. See? It doesn't do them any good. But some people, the suffering softens the soul. Suffering softens the soul. And then they begin to wake up. The other thing it does is wake you up. See, comfort puts you to sleep. Somebody gives you a cigarette. See, a marijuana, a pill, a drink, some food, music. See, it comforts the soul. It anesthetizes the soul. It robs you of salvation. Comfort literally can rob you of salvation. And some people never recover from the comfort. You become addicted to it. See, the more you lean away from God, the more you become addicted to that palliative care, to that remove, see, to the ones that give you to the pushers, see, who take away the symptoms and never correct you. See, a lot of people they never correct you. They never throw you back on yourself. They never tell the truth. So when there's no truth, no correction, no suffering, no having to look at yourself, no consequences. See? Well, that's a recipe for a person never finding salvation. And that person will find a group somewhere, an organization, a church, or whatever that will continue with this comfort. Accept them just as they are, where they never have to see themselves or admit anything. See? So it's pure poison. So like I said, you're better off without their comfort, without their approval, without their support. I know it's a hard teaching. It takes a certain measure of maturity to, was it Winston Churchill that said, you know, if you're not a liberal when you're 20 years old, then you don't have a heart. Okay? If you're not a conservative when you're 40, then you don't have a brain. Okay? Something like that. So there's something about getting older, having a family, having responsibility, learning, growing, see, that tends to make a person a bit wiser in such matters. And that this wiser person then will not give undue comfort and support to others, knowing that it hurts them. See, but it's difficult because that's what the other person wants. And if you give them comfort and say, oh, that's okay, we love you just the way you are, and we'll get rid of the symptoms and we'll get rid of the consequences for you. See, well, the person tends to like that. That seems like love. See, and the one that's kind of stern says, well, you messed up now, fix it, make it right. Or the person says, well, I'm sorry, but you messed up, so go about your business. See, that person doesn't seem warm. See, it seems cold to the ego. The ego naturally gravitates toward comfort. See, but the ego sees everything backwards. What's bad is good and what's good is bad. See, the little kid sees a piece of candy and that's good, and a piece of broccoli and that's bad, see. So, he sees his friends when he's done wrong, then he sees his friends that accept him just as he is as good. And he sees his parents as mean. And when he's hanging around with some good-for-nothing from the neighborhood, then he sees that good-for-nothing as a wonderful person, and he sees his parents as being really bad and mean for not allowing him to do all the rotten things that his friend wants him to do with him, you see? So the ego tends to get everything backwards. That's why you need objectivity. See? But even that, see, most people never get to the point where they will sit down and meditate properly with my meditation to become still and to get out of thinking. See, thoughts can be a comfort. Emotions can be a comfort. See, your thoughts, when you're hurting a little bit from something or other, someone said something to you, maybe someone criticized you, whether it was valid or not, we won't talk about that now. Maybe it was valid, maybe it wasn't. But you resent it so much. So then your thoughts comfort you. They tell you that person is terrible and mean and you're good, and next time you'll do this and that, and you'll show them and you'll prove to them. See? See how those thoughts comfort you? Well, they're straight from hell, those thoughts. And your emotions comfort you, your anger, your hurt, your rage, your bitterness. See, they comfort you. But they keep you from calmly, sitting quietly, and seeing and observing in the light. See? Because that's what you need to do. But the person who does not want, who is unwilling to face it, who doesn't like truth, who doesn't want to admit who refuses to admit their own wrong, they can never meditate, never. See, until they have a change of heart. If they have a change of heart, where they really, really cry out for true answers, well, then they can meditate. See? And then you have a different perspective. You have objectivity. Now you see all those rotten friends for what they are, users and harpies and taking advantage, and lying to you. See? You see them for what they are. And you see the ones that are a bit more stern and more conservative. You begin to see that they're your true friends, okay? They weren't really mean. See, they just knew that being too comforting and giving you too much was not good for you. They just knew that, see. So you begin to see everything the way it really is instead of backwards. Okay? And so it's a whole change. It's a whole change of everything for the good. Then you become subject to the good and subject to truth instead of subject to the lie. See, when you accept the lie as to comfort you, when you accept the lie, then you become subject to the lie and the source of the lie. But when you turn from the lie and you accept the truth and believe the truth, see, love the truth, even though it makes you feel bad temporarily, like going to the dentist to get your tooth pulled, makes you feel bad temporarily, but then afterwards you're glad you got your tooth pulled. Okay, so coming back to the truth, you have to see your own wrong. It's a little painful, maybe very painful. So you have regret. You're sad over what you see about yourself, but then later you're better. Then you're over it, and the sun shines again, and the birds are singing, and life is good. Okay? See? My name is Rowan.